Hey folks, we are back with another video lesson. So in your notes packet, it should look like this. Points, lines, and planes is the name of the game today. I'll be honest, kind of a lot of writing today just because it's a lot of new vocab, but we'll use this vocab for the rest of the year, so it's very important. And normally, sorry about that, we would do like a cut and paste activity, but since we aren't together, we're going to do the old-fashioned way, which is okay. We'll make the most of it. So bear with me. Try to write down everything I write down, even though it's kind of a lot. But the next page is much easier and goes much faster, okay? So let's just dive in. We're going to start with a point. So a point just indicates a location. So our definition would be indicates a location. Okay. Here would be a picture. It's literally just a dot, you guys, with a capital letter next to it. So I'm going to use A because I'm boring. So this is a point. That's it. It's just marking this exact spot there. It's a location. That's it. How we would name that, I'm going to write this to the side. Maybe you should write this too. You use a capital letter to name it. So maybe let's write that off to the side here. Use a capital letter to name. So I would call that point A. Okay. So a point is just one point. Now let's say we had 2 points, we could make a line. So a line, a definition, we could say it's straight and goes on for forever, and ever and ever. So let's say straight. Can you see that? Oh, perfect. And goes on forever. So let's do this. I'm going to draw my line. And you have to put the arrows on. The arrows are important. So put your arrows on there. And there needs to be 2 points on there. So I'm going to put A and B. So this is our line. And sometimes there's like a little cursive letter by it. I'm going to put like an L. So when we name this, we have a few different ways to name it. So you could either call it line L. You can use that little cursive letter because that's naming this line. Or you could pick 2 points on the line and name it that way. So you could call it A, B, but then you have to put a little line on top so we know it's a line. Or you can reverse those letters and it could be BA. So those are all the different ways to name that line right there. With the little cursive letter in the corner or with 2 points. Just remember, it's straight and it goes on for forever in both directions. Okay, now a plane. Plane's kind of hard to visualize, but all it is a flat surface. It represents a flat surface. So you could think of like the top of your desk, or like the ceiling, or the floor, or like a wall. Do you see how those are all flat surfaces? So it's a flat surface and it goes on for forever. So a plane is a flat surface and goes on for forever. So flat, oh, I should do green so I can alternate. Flat surface and goes on forever. Again, you're gonna see my wonderful drawing ability here. So it's like a rectangle, but we slant it a bit. So it's not like a straight sides, but so for our plane, we kind of slant it like this. Do you guys see how it's not straight up and down? So that would be our plane here. So this is representing a flat surface. And you always have to have 3 points inside a plane. So I'm going to put A, B, and C. And then sometimes they label a corner with like a cursive letter, capital letter. So I'm going to put R here. So now we have a few different ways we can name this plane here, because when you get to your homework, you're just going to be kind of given like diagrams of things with a bunch of different lines, points, and planes in it. So we have to know how to label these things correctly. So we could either call this plane R, so you could call it by the cursive letter in the corner. So do you guys see how this isn't a point? I don't have a dot next to it, so it's not a point. It's naming this plane. So I can name this plane R. Or you can pick 3 points, any 3 points in that plane, as long as they're not on the same line, which is kind of weird. So I could call this also plane A, B, C. Because do you guys see how there's no way I could draw a line that contains all those points. They're all on different parts of my plane. And also know, sorry, I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but also know that you could switch the order of those letters too. So I could have said plane B, C, A, or C, A, B. It doesn't matter the order of the letters, just as long as you have 3, okay? All right, collinear points. So collinear means that the points are on the same line. So points on the same line. Okay, so collinear means they're on the same line. So a picture, let's draw a line and let's put some points on there. Doesn't matter how many. I'm gonna put 3. And let's name these, I don't know, should we do J, K, L just to mix it up? So I could say in this picture here, points J, K, and L are collinear because they're on the same line there. Shimmy up a bit. So what do you suppose coplanar points are? So coplanar points would be points on the same, you guessed it, plane. So points on the same plane. Woo! So again, draw your plane. Remember, it's that slanted rectangle because it's a flat surface. Mine's not very good, but that's okay. It looks flat. Okay, there's my plane. And now I'm going to draw points that are on there. So we could say this point here is on the plane, so I can call it, should we say P? Point ends on the plane, and so is M. Since these are all on the same plane, they are coplanar, on the same plane. Let's think about this, coplanar lines. So this is saying lines that are on the same plane. So lines on the same plane. So again, draw your flat surface. Something like this, I hope, on yours. I wish I was better at drawing. We all have our skill sets, right, in life? Mine's just not this. And now you want to draw 2 lines that are on that plane. So I'm going to draw, I'll do this in a different color. How does that sound? Will pencil show up? Here's one line. I'm going to call that line L. So I have a little cursive L next to it. Oh, that's kind of hard to see. And then I'm going to draw another line down here. And I'm going to call this one N, a little cursive N. So these 2 lines are coplanar because they're on the same plane. All right, 3 left. We can do this. Yes, we can. Okay. A segment is just a part of a line, so it's just a segment, like a piece of it, and has 2 endpoints. So we're going to say part of a line has 2 endpoints. So I'm going to draw my 2 endpoints. So this is a segment. It has a starting point and a stopping point. So do you guys see like how a line goes on for forever? That's why we have 2 arrows on a line. Whereas a segment, it starts and it stops. So you can measure it. I guess that's basically the difference. So I'm just going to call this A and B. If I wanted to name that segment there, like on an assignment or something, I would call it segment AB. And so I know it's an assignment. I mean, not assignment. Sorry, you guys. So I know it's a segment, like versus a line. You put a little segment bar on top. So make sure you get that down. So this would say segment AB. Or you could flip the letters. You could have BA. Either of these are a good way to name that segment. Just remember, it's your endpoints that name it, and then you put the segment bar on top. Well, this is kind of silly. We probably should have had this before segments, but we already know what an endpoint is. It's where a segment starts or stops. So we'll say, I need to change my colors. Place where a segment, I'll put /ray, because we'll talk about that in a second, starts or stops. So if I wanted to have an example of this, let's just use the one we just did above. AB, or I guess we can make array just so we can see what that looks like. Call that X. So all 3 of these, do you guys see how they're like endpoints? It starts, it stops, it starts, they're endpoints. So A, B, and X are endpoints. Okay, finally, our last definition for notes today. So array extends in one direction for forever. So it's kind of like a line, but instead of going in both directions for forever, it just starts and then goes, I should probably go this way, and then goes forever in just one direction. So extends in one direction forever. So it's just like the picture I drew above. Let's label this X. Let's just put another point Y on there for us. So this is array. Do you guys see how it starts and then goes on for infinity in one way, but there's nothing happening over here? So that's why it's array. And then when you label array, you always start with its endpoint. So where it starts, X, Y, because you need another point on there to name it, and then you draw a little ray on top. So do you guys see how that's an easy way? Can we do this? Maybe not. I can show you guys this right there. Like versus a segment. So a segment has a segment on top, a ray has a little ray on top, and then a line, remember we put a little line on top. So that's how we can easily keep all these things different when we're talking about them in our homework, because we label them differently. I know that was a lot, and I know that was mostly new. So if you're kind of feeling overwhelmed right now, just know you're not alone, and we will become very, very good at this. So now I would like you to turn your page in your notes, and it should look like, grab my little sheets here. Sorry if you kind of get dizzy looking at all the movement on the screen. Okay, it should look like this, correct? So let's put these words to use so they become more concrete in our brain. It says draw 3 non-collinear points, J, K, and L. So non-collinear, what does that mean? Did we even talk about that, Miss Bundy? No, but we're smart. So if collinear means they're on the same line, non-collinear would be not on the same line. So we're going to say not on the same line. This might be helpful to write down that definition. It's up to you, but not on the same line. So let's just use this empty space here to draw those 3 points. So I'm going to put J right here. I'm going to put K up here and L right there. So do you have your 3 points drawn? So is there any way, just so we're on the same page, for me to draw a line that goes through all 3 points at one time? Not a chance. Okay, now it says then draw. So do you guys see how there's a little line on top? So I want to draw a line that goes through J and K. So I need to draw a line through these 2 points. I'll try my best to hit them. And so how I know it's a line, remember, you put your little arrows. There we go. We did the first the first task. We drew the line. Second, it says draw KL. And then it's a segment bar on top, so I know it starts at K and it ends at L. There's no arrows. So here's segment KL. I'm starting at K, and I'm making my way to L. It starts and stops, nothing else. We're done. And then lastly, we have Ray LJ. So do you guys see how I start at L and I go through J? Since it says start at L, go through J. So I'm going to start here at L, and I'm going through J, and since it's a ray, it goes on for forever, so you put a little arrow on. Good work, team. Okay. This next part is just kind of like a graphic organizer to familiarize us with how many arrows it has and how many endpoints. So let's label these. Will you label this part over here with me? So let's do, we had JK, line JK, then we had segment KL, and then we had ray LJ. So now I want you to pause the video, and I want you to see if you can fill in the columns here, okay? And if you get stuck, that's okay. Just go on to the part you can do, and you'll see how you did, okay? So pause the video and fill out each of these columns, and then check your work with mine when you're done, okay? So now I'm gonna do it. I hope you tried it. Well, let's see how this goes. So this says line, right? There's 2 arrows on it, so I know it's a line. So JK is a line. How many arrowheads? We'll count. Well, look, there's 1, 2, because remember, we know it goes on for forever in both directions. So 2 arrowheads. How many endpoints? Well, does a line start or stop anywhere? No, because it goes on for forever, so there's 0 endpoints. Okay, now to our next one. So since there's a segment bar above KL, I know it's a segment. How many arrowheads? Well, look, I start at K, I end at L. Does it go on for forever in either way? Nope. So we have 0 arrowheads. How many endpoints? 2, right? A start and a stop. And then our last one here is ray LJ. So I'm going to put down ray. How many arrowheads? Well, look, remember, it goes on forever in one direction. So it has 1 arrowhead and it has 1 starting point. So it starts at L. So that means it has 1 endpoint. How did we do? Did we get it? Some of it? All of it? Okay. Now, our last part here is we're just going to use this diagram Can I get it all in? Perfect. I love that we can do that. Maybe a little bit more. Okay. So we're going to use this diagram here, folks, to answer these questions. And note that a lot of these questions have multiple answers, so we'll just write down one that for sure works, okay? So the big idea behind this is I want us to get familiar with looking at a picture and identifying a plane, a point, a line, rays, whatever, right? We just need to get really comfortable with this vocab. Okay, let's just start from the top and work our way. It says a line which contains point B. So first we have to figure out where's B. Well, B's right here, and we need to name the line that contains it. And they're telling us there's 6 ways. That's wild, right? So let's just start. Remember, we need 2 points on a line to name it. So what are 2 points on this line right here? Well, I could call it AL. And then remember, we can flip the order. Oops. We can flip the order, so then I could also call it LA. We could call it, what are 2 other points? We could do LB, LB. And again, flip the order, BL. So now we have 4 ways. And then our last one we could do would be A and B, or B, A if we flip the order. And that right there, folks, was our 6 ways. So that wasn't so bad. That was pretty good. Okay, let's just go down and then we'll come back to the right. It says a ray with endpoint C. A ray with endpoint C. So here's C. Do you guys see how it's a ray because it has a starting point and then goes on forever this way? So you pick the endpoint to name it, so C, and then another point on that ray. So you have 2 to choose from. You could call it ray CD, and then make sure to put your little ray on top. Or you could say C and use the other point, E. And again, make sure you put your ray on top. Okay. The next one, a plane which does not contain point D. So let's refresh. A plane is just a flat surface. So do you guys see how they shaded it? We have 2 planes here. We want to name the plane that doesn't have point D. So this plane right here has point D on it. So I want to name this plane over here. So remember, we have to pick 3 points that aren't on the same line in this plane. So I could say H and then pick 2 points from over here. So let's say plane H, A, L. So that is naming this plane over here. Okay. Name 3 non-collinear points. So remember, we said non-collinear means not on the same line. So 3 points, just pick 3 random points that aren't on the same line, folks. I'm going to go with G, K, D. Points G, K, D. Perfect. Name 4 non-coplanar points. So non-coplanar means not on the same plane. So pick some points from this side and pick some points from this side because those are 2 separate planes. So let's say points H, F, K, D. Do you guys see how all those points are on separate sides? So we're okay there? Okay, this bottom one's kind of tricky. It says name the intersection of the 2 planes. So do you guys see if I outline that plane and this plane, where do my 2 pen colors overlap? Well, they overlapped right here. Do you guys know what that makes up. Like, what is that? It's actually a line, right? This is a line right there. So the intersection of two planes is a line. It's a line. Okay, one more column left. It says name a segment which contains points H and G. So if I wanted to name this little segment here HG, guys, it's just that easy. HG or GH with the little segment on top. That's it. We're done. The endpoints, well, it starts and stops at H and G. Done. Got it. Name a plane containing point D in 3 ways. So here's point D. So I want to name this plane here. So remember, you pick 3 points in that shaded area that aren't on the same line. So you could say plane. Do you guys see how K is not on this line? So if I use K in 2 of these points, we're good. So I'm going to say plane K, C, D. That's one way. And now just jumble up the letters because that's all you have to do. So now I could do plane K, C, D. And then another way could be plane D, K, C. That's it. Nothing else to it. Name 3 collinear points. Collinear means on the same line. So pick 3 points that fall on the same line, folks. We have a couple options here. You could either do these 3, H, G, F, or A, L, B. Let's do points H, G, F. Name 3 coplanar points that are not collinear. So we want to pick 3 points on the same plane that do not lie on the same line. So let's do, should we work with this guy on the left? So we could do points H, G. So these 2 are on the same line. So now we have to pick a point that's not on this line. So should we do L? Because L is still on this plane, so it's coplanar. It works. And finally, folks, we made it to the last one. 2 coplanar lines. So 2 lines that are on the same plane. Okay? So if we work with this flat surface here, I lied, we can't because there's not a line there. Let's work with this left one. I have line HF. Remember to put your little line on top because that tells me it's a line. And then we also have line AB on that plane. There we go. I know that was a mouthful. I know we might be confused right now between all the different coplanar, non-coplanar, coplanar, all those words. So let it simmer for a bit. We will practice together when I see you next in class. And just know if you're feeling a little overwhelmed right now, you are not alone. Have a super rest of your day, and I will see you next in my room. See you later.